Welcome everybody to this Sunday morning service here at Salt and Light Christian Church. The story that I will be telling you all this morning is about the famous pastor, evangelist, and theologian D.L. Moody. Dwight was born to a poor family in upstate Massachusetts in 1837. He was the sixth of 9 children. And unfortunately, when he was only 4 years old, his father, who was a bricklayer, passed away. This, as you can imagine, flung his family into poverty, not having a man of the house to help out and to provide. And so many of his siblings ended up moving out to either go start their own lives or go and work to help provide for the family as much as they could. And Dwight, being one of them, worked on a farm with one of his brothers for several years as a teenager. However, when he was 17, he began to grow tired of farm work. And he ended up leaving his family home to move to the big city of Boston, where he worked in his uncle's shoe shop. One of the requirements for his job there was to attend church every Sunday at his uncle's church that he went to. And during this time, Moody's Bible study teacher had felt the Holy Spirit drawing his heart towards D.L. Moody and to go and to witness to him and to lead him to Christ. And so one day, Dwight's Bible study teacher, he decided to go and visit D.L. Moody while he was at work. And he went to the shoe shop where Dwight worked, and he hesitated for a moment before going in to talk to him because he was unsure of how Dwight would respond, if he would be annoyed for being bothered at work, or if his co-workers would mock him and kind of make fun of him for having his Sunday school teacher come and check in on him. But after a moment of prayer, he resolved to just go in and talk to him and to get it over with. And so he went into the shoe store, and he ended up finding Dwight in the back of the shop mending some shoes. And he walked up to him and put his hand on his shoulder and proceeded to explain to him the love that Christ had for him and the love that Christ wanted from him in return. The efforts of his Sunday school teacher, combined with the teachings that his mom raised him and his siblings with, resonated in Dwight's heart. And that day, in the back of that shoe shop, he came to Christ and he gave his life to Jesus. A couple years later, Moody would go on to move to Chicago, where he participated in many different ministries, and he eventually founded his own church in the city of Chicago. At this church, there were 2 devout Christian women who every Sunday would sit in the front row and pray throughout the majority of his sermon. And one Sunday after preaching, these women came up to him and explained to him that they had been praying for him, for the outpouring of the Holy Spirit upon him, because they believed God had pressed it upon their hearts that he had more for Moody than just being the pastor of this church. And at the time, this seemed a little odd to Dwight because he was actually quite content being the pastor of this church and helping out with fellow churches and leading in the YMCA ministries. At the time, the YMCA was Christian organization. And so he kind of felt like he had his hands full and he was happy doing what he was doing. But as God often does, he called more to Dwight. And after these women talked to him and prayed over him, the Holy Spirit filled D.L. Moody in a new way. And his sermons from then on, not that they were preached differently, but they were preached with full of the power of the Holy Spirit. And he ended up going on to lead revivals throughout Chicago. And because of this, he was invited to head to England and to preach all throughout England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales, where he led many revivals and preached to millions of people. And so we can see that despite his humble beginnings, Christ called him for greatness and used him to pour out his Holy Spirit upon thousands of people in this world. So thank you. Let's bring the music in.